Welcome back to the Grand Prix de Pau, and this time we have the Porsche Carrera Cup on circuit, and we have a man at the head of the field who might be reasonably familiar to you. He's a man that has won the odd rally and the odd championship. It's a certain Mr. Sébastien Loeb, 8 times world champion, 70 times a winner in the World Rally Championship. We know he's quick in a race car, finished runner-up at Le Mans in 2006. And in his own team, he's on pole position ahead of his teammate Jean-Carl Vernet, Vincent Beltoir, and comme led the championship leader, Gaël Castelli, Julien Briche, who we've just seen go on and win an RC's Head Cup race. Sylvain Noël, Sacha Botteman, Ange Bard is on pole position for the Gentleman's Cup ahead of Christophe Lapierre, Nicolas Maroc, Lonnie Martin, Romain Monti. And as they go down, Roland Berville, Didier Moreau, Tony Samon, Bruno Strazier and Eric Dermont. Now this is what the challenge is. You can see what it's like. How tough is this going to be, Will?
Yeah, it's there's not a lot of light at all. Obviously we don't know if the camera's making it darker or lighter. I think it probably is actually much more of a real representation as to what we're seeing now. It looks quite bright, but I think that onboard shot is actually what Sébastien Loeb will be looking at from pole position of this grid. As they make their way down, it's going to be fantastic to see Sébastien out racing in a sprint race.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is great to see him doing that kind of racing. Endurance racing is tough. We know he's very, very good at that. We know how quick he is. Last time I recall him racing in on an international scene was the International GT Open final race of 2010, which was in Barcelona, where he shared the car with his Citroën teammate Danny Sordo, and had a top 6 finish in a Porsche, and then unfortunately Sébastien was punted off into the gravel on the early laps. Now seems like half of the whole Porsche family seems to be on the grid there, Will.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of people down there, isn't there? This is obviously quite a big race. Obviously I can't recall another night race. We've got Sébastien Loeb on pole. I mean, it's a lot of firsts. Has Sébastien Loeb ever won a circuit race before?
Well, that's a good question. I'm sure if we have a look through his bio, I bet he has, but off the top of my head, I'm sure he's obviously won a bit of rallying. I think
he's obviously won a bit of rallying.
We're kind of confident that there's no one's going to question that. But yeah, well, it's one thing is for sure, he's super quick in whatever he does. Anyone that can get into a top 10 time on a Formula 1 test with Red Bull pretty much says it all. There was even a point where there was rumours of him going straight into Formula 1, which pretty much says it all, really. Third on the grid will be Vincent Beltoise. There he is, who's come across from racing single seaters in the States last year. 5 wins in the US F2000 series. Bit of Seat Super Cup, or even raced some Caterhams and in the Formula Palmer Audi Championship. So this year has already had a podium, and he's the nephew of a certain Jean-Pierre Beltoise, who was winner of another fairly famous French-speaking street race, the Monaco Grand Prix, back in 1972, and the BRM, the last ever win for BRM that was. How about that for a bit of Anaraki trivia for you? Fantastic.
The knowledge staggers me.
It staggers myself sometimes. Occasionally it's actually right as well. Not very often. But I had the pleasure of commentating on Sébastien Loeb for a couple of years in the World Rally Championship for MotorsTV, and it was always, occasionally we'd, quite regularly we'd have an awful lot of onboard shots that we could enjoy, and you'd sit there watching Loeb in action, and the thing that astounded you is that regardless of the rally, regardless of the conditions, whether it was gravel, tarmac, snow, whatever, he was always completely and utterly on it. Now, this is Brichet. I think this is Julien Brichet. Does that mean he's actually had to change his suit before he's got into the car? It looks like Brichet. It looks a familiar smile that's coming out of there. I wonder if he's cooled down yet, Will.
Probably not. I think he'll still be riding the wave of that past win.
Now, it says it's Jean-Carl Vernet, but we can clearly see it's not. It's Gaël Castelli, who is going to be starting 5th on the grid in the Castelli racing team. And Gaël, a 32-year-old Frenchman, current champion from the Seat Super Cup. And he also won the 2010 Spider Cup, and his prize for that, something that you and I would have absolutely given our back teeth to do, was a test with the Peugeot 908 Le Mans car.
Oh,
how cool is that?
that's a good prize.
That is a good prize, isn't it? You know, there's a big prize money on offer with the Peugeot Championship, the RCZ we've seen. I think it's 50,000 euros for the winner. And usually there's a great prize for the Porsches as well. But as much as the money is fantastic, and nobody will deny that it was going to help your racing career, the opportunity to race something like that, or to drive something like that. Vernet, that we see on the front row of the grid, of course, had some runs with Peugeot and was looking likely to be one of the factory drivers for this year, until quite suddenly Peugeot decided to withdraw from sports car racing with immediate effect. They cited budget issues, but who are coming back to top-line sports car racing is, of course, the most successful manufacturer in the history of the Le Mans 24 Hours. The people we're watching now, Porsche, and it will be wonderful to see their prototype back in action. And I wonder if this man might be up for a drive. You never know. The distinctive eyes of Sébastien Loeb in his own race team. Front row of the grid, first three in fact for Sébastien Loeb Racing. They've got the hang of this Porsche now. Can he deliver as a driver what he does as a team boss in Porsches? We'll find out after the break. Welcome to Pau for the Grand Prix and for the night race that will include the second race weekend of the Porsche Carrera Cup for 2012. And the big story is the man that is on pole position is the current World Rally Champion. Well, I could have said that he was the current World Champion, not just this year, but last year and the year before. Past 8, yeah, exactly. Going back to 2005, I could have said, this man is the current World Rally Champion. Who would have thunk it all those years ago that no one would be able to beat him? And came close in 09 when Mikko Hirvonen got within a point of beating him. As the grid girls, well, they've had a long and busy day. I think that
overtime.
They're all actually trying to go towards Sébastien Loeb's hotel at the moment. Every single one of them seem to be taking an interest in the great man. And you can see it is 9:50 local time. Woolly hat is on. The man at the back there is looking like he's ready for some action. But most importantly, we are ready to see 40 minutes of racing action for the Porsche Carrera Cup France. Matt sponsor this series. And we've got a good entry of 18 cars, a mixture of two main classes for drivers, which is the professional and then the Trophée B for gentlemen, Trophée A for the main professional drivers. Of course, Loeb, Vernet, Beltoise, Comme Ledegar, who won in the opening round at Ledenon, is our current championship leader. And we are watching with interest to see which of the drivers is going to be able to get the best of the starts. Not an easy thing to get off the line, Will, is it?
No, you've got a lot of power, very easy to spin up the rear wheels. The track temperature is going to have dropped a lot since they were last on circuit, so they've got to bear that in mind. And as you can see the times there, you know, it's tough at the top. There's not a lot separating the front guys. Loeb did seem to have the measure of everyone by just being able to throw in that lap when it mattered to get himself on the front row. Whether that was sheer brilliance and he's got this all in hand, or whether he was trying his hardest, we will find out in due course.
Well, certainly for the onboard we were watching, there was plenty of opposite lock, lots of locking up on the downshifts going on, so maybe it was absolutely as far as it could go in terms of performance for Loeb. Certainly didn't look to me like there was much to give, much more to give from the Frenchman.
Are we about to see a safety car start?
I don't think so. I don't know. It looked, could be, couldn't it? That certainly looks like the safety car ahead of us, doesn't it? Riding on board below, a very moody and artistic shot of the team members.
Smile, you're on camera.
Smile, you're on camera indeed. Well, the Porsche safety car comes around. Your point's a very good one. Well, are we going to see a safety car start? I hope not. I hope we see a proper start, because they're infinitely more exciting, aren't they, on a circuit like this?
They are, but I think we've just got our answer there as they start to line up in grid order. I think we're going to have a rolling start.
Could be. We didn't get that information through, unfortunately. So we will have to watch with interest to see who gets the best of the starts. Both Jean-Carl Vernet has done an awful lot of racing in America, remember. He's done the Indy Lights Championship, which he won in 2010, which is all rolling starts. So could be good for him, couldn't it?
Absolutely. There's some top talent in the front of this grid. This is going to be a special race, I think.
And you can hear, I think they've saved the best to last from the fans' point of view, because as much as all the other races are thrilling for everybody to watch, this guy is the absolute legend of all French motorsport, is Sébastien Loeb. He's so incredibly popular. He's such a charismatic guy. Now, it's interesting there, you can see the safety car passenger holding out 2 fingers there, which I'm guessing is not an impolite salute that an Englishman might make. It's actually to give them some sort of info. I can't imagine they're saying there's 2 more laps, can you?
No, I do recall them holding their hands out the windows in the last start. So I think
2 by 2 maybe, that's what it's saying.
2 by 2, absolutely. So I think we're about to see them get underway here.
So let's watch with interest to see who gets the better start through the glare of the lights. Sébastien Loeb is on the left as we look at it, 40 minutes.
And we're racing.
And we are indeed. And is it going to be Loeb? It is Loeb who gets across ahead of Vernet and Beltoise. The rest of the pack charge down into turn 1. The LED lights flash in unison on the back of the Porsches. They power up the hill, all 450 horsepower of these magnificent machines charging up the hill. I don't know what 450 horsepower times 18 is, but it's enough to make the streets echo here in Pau, to the sound of somebody actually off nice and early, unfortunately for them.
That's the run-off road at turn 1, so obviously never even made it round the first corner.
Yeah, can't see from that angle.
Sébastien Loeb already pulling a second on the rest of the pack.
Now, we talked about this earlier, didn't we, Will, about the possibility of Loeb on cold tyres being on another level because of what he's used to doing with his rallying career on tarmac. And do you think that's a factor in these conditions, with the cooler conditions, cold tyres, a street circuit, and cars which are moving around as much as Porsches do? Is that the factor?
Well, I think if anyone can find the usable grip, it's going to be Sébastien Loeb. Obviously, he's probably used to a lot of anti-lag and launch control in his rally car, but he seemed to have no problem, straight across, covered the second place, dominant position into the first turn, and now he's got I'm guessing he's going to get past this line with over a second gap on the rest of the pack.
Little lift there through the right-hander. Don't blame them, really, do you? They've got to be doing what?
Yellow flags out into turn 1.
160 miles an hour maybe into turn 1, would you suggest, from the Porsches?
I don't know if it's going to be quite that much, but they are definitely going to be pressing on there.
Yeah, well, at the moment it does look like Loeb has just got enough up the road. He's fastest sectors 2 and 3, 1.058. Your guess was a pretty good one, Will. And it's Jean-Carl Vernet second himself, 1.5 seconds up the road on Beltoise, who has got just 4/10 on Comer-Ledegar.
These cars just look fantastic at night through the streets, don't they?
I mean, they have really genuinely saved the best to last in terms of the Porsches are absolutely the most spectacular in terms of sound and vision, as much as we enjoyed. Oh, a bit of a moment there for one of the cars. Was that Ledegar? I think that might have been. It got a little bit of a swing. Was Comer-Ledegar got a bit of a slide on Gael Castelli, who himself is under pressure from Julien Prichet, who, as much as he would like to get 2 wins in one night, I think that's going to be a bit of a tall order from where he is at the moment. 6th, all pretty much in the order that they started at the moment. Nothing's really much changed. Ange Bard leading the Gentleman's Cup, the driver who actually had an off right at the end of the second qualifying session. They do a really interesting way that they do it. So 1.2 now the lead that Loeb has, is that they, a bit more of an oversteering moment. They do the first part of the qualifying session for the A drivers, then a bit of a break, then the B drivers. It works quite well, Will, doesn't it?
Yeah, it gave them all a bit of a fair chance, a good run in qualifying to show what they could do. Interesting, these low lights. I wonder whether we're perhaps going to see the odd apex cut a bit too tight, little exit, too much exit used, just as the lights start to dazzle your vision. You know, it starts to get a bit heated, the light's a bit low, your eyes start to play tricks with you a little bit. So it's going to take a lot of concentration, 40 minutes around these streets.
The other point is, yeah, it's a really good point, but the other thing is that You know, we were seeing these guys out qualifying mid-afternoon. They were out of the race car and finished by 4:10. So that's like, you know, basically more than 5 hours between qualifying and racing. Well, is there a chance that fatigue will have started to affect some people, or is the adrenaline enough, do you think, to pump them back up again?
I think the top boys, the professionals in this, won't have a problem with it at all, but it can be quite draining just standing around waiting for 5 hours. You know, it's quite hard to keep that explosive adrenaline focus. We've got a car slowing down here,
and we got Verne there's a puncher and I can't see which of the drivers that is.
Could be more like suspension. It looked like it was bouncing up and down in the rear corner.
Something not right anyway, but Loeb lost something like 0.4 of a second on that last lap.
Gap down to 0.8, so yeah, not as comfortable as he would like at the moment. But yellow flags, we've got a spinner, sorting himself out, light the rear wheels up, turn it round, carry back on.
Ange Bard, that was Ange Bard who spun, who was leading the category for the gentleman driver. So that means it's almost certainly Christophe Lapierre or Lonnie Martins are the drivers who were immediately behind him, who may well have got themselves ahead of Ange Bard. And he's not having the best of days, Ange. In some respects, he's been very good. He's quickest by some way in the Gentleman's Cup. But then he had an off in qualifying. Now he's had a spin in the first race, which is
they must have only just finished repairing that car after the qualifying session earlier with his little running with the barriers up at turn 2.
A little bit of a loss of focus of the camera there. Either that or we're getting tired as well, Will, and the eyes have gone. I think it's the camera, hopefully. Ledegar still trying to close down a little bit on Beltoise.
It was Bottomau, I think, who's retired, that we saw perhaps with either punch or suspension failure.
Yeah, I think Roland Berville was the driver. He went off on the first lap, and then we've seen Sacha Bottomau and Didier Moreau not come round either, so that could have been Moreau could have been the one that was going slowly, or Bottomau, one of those two, wasn't it?
And Loeb just setting the fastest lap of the race again, upping the gap by another 10th, so it looks quite close as they exit the tight hairpin there. The gap doesn't look a lot. Second is not a long way.
Yeah, I think this gap sort of stabilised, in fact just behind Loeb. Then Colm Ledegar had just gone slightly quicker, 20.068, so there's still a couple of seconds off of the time they did in qualifying. That could be partly because obviously the first heat cycle they put through on new tyres has obviously gone away a little bit. And it could also, of course, be that the conditions now, whereas the track will have improved in some respects because there's more rubber gone down, the temperature will have dropped massively, and, of course, it will have got a lot more dirty.
Yeah, absolutely. The track temperature definitely would have played a factor. They'd probably started off with different PSI settings in their tyres before they started the race. Perhaps just a couple of PSI further up the scale before the start of the race, just to try and help get some temperature. We should get more of an idea as the race progresses what sort of tyre strategies people have gone with, whether they want the tyres to come in straight away and they may start to struggle as the race goes on, or other guys who are going to try and maintain an even tyre balance throughout the race. Sebastian obviously sitting at the front, he's a second ahead, probably taking it quite easy on his tyres at the moment. I think he's going to want to try and save something for the second half of the race, just to make sure he can maintain this gap over Vernet, who is a very quick driver, and I think he's probably capable of giving Loeb a bit of a run for his money.
Well, there's the best part of 15 years between the two of them. Vernet, 24 years old, Loeb coming up to 39 years old. Seems to... There's another year in his contract with Citroën at the end of this year to potentially go to see him take 9, maybe 10 World Championships if he could do that. I mean, at the moment, he seems to have had everything fall his way. Jari-Matti Latvala having dramas and ending up with an injury as well, having some offs after such a strong start to the year. Winning in Sweden, of course. And then, of course... Mikael Kievanen being impressive, actually taking a win in Portugal, but then getting disqualified, and Mads Osberg taking that win. So the world of world rallying has once again meant that the precision and performance of Loeb has been bearing him dividends every time. So that time 2/10 he lost to Vernet on that lap.
Yeah, down to 7/10 now. It's closing up a little bit with half hour to go. I think it's going to get a bit tight towards the end.
Yeah, and it could well be that, as you said, the experience maybe in a race situation that Sebastian Loeb has is slightly different to Vernet. Vernet maybe could be in a situation to, you know, perhaps, who knows, perhaps just get himself into a charge at the end. Or is that contact? Is that a recovering Orange Bard, I think?
Yeah, it's Bard down trying to take 15th place. He's obviously a lot quicker than the guys in front, and I think a bit of frustration creeping in as he starts to roll his sleeves up and push people out of the way.
Indeed, and got to watch to see with interest which of the drivers can do the best. Now, Julien Brichet, currently sitting there in 6th. He took a win in the second race at Ledenon. Also, the first race was won by Comme Ledegar. But Brichet had a bit of a rough start to the series, only scoring 8 points in the opening race. Ledegar having a win and then 11 points in race 2. Remember, there's the Gentleman's Trophy, there's the main category, the Trophy A, and there's also a junior category as well, which at the moment we're watching to see which of the drivers does best at that. And Comme Ledegar is, of course, going to be the best driver of that because he's leading the championship. So what's the gap this time, Will?
We're back up to 8/10, so he's Loeb seems to have it all under control. Have you noticed from his onboard, it almost seems like he's just driving to the grid. You know, he's really smooth, really controlled. I get the slight impression he's very much in his comfort zone here.
I think when you see somebody with such a high level of natural ability, everything that everybody else would make look like they're actually working at, he just looks like he's cruising at somebody off there, obviously, on the exit there. You might see them going again, Castelli and Brichet. That fight's going to go on and on. I think Brichet got a really good run that time. Is he thinking about going to the inside? But this isn't flat for these cars. It's flat for some things. Oh, Brichet looking like he had a bit of oversteer as he came through. That's what's going to make it hard to overtake into turn 1, is that corner before that for those cars, isn't it?
Yeah, the kink where these guys have to get out of the throttle, it is going to hurt the overtaking chances.
So just under a tenth of a second between Brichet and Castelli, both championship winning drivers in France, and certainly Brichet now a championship leading driver in the RCZ Cup after his tremendous performance under great pressure in the opening race we saw a little bit earlier in the darkness here. And it really is tough, isn't it? That onboard, as you say, from Loeb's car just gives you an indication of how hard it is to pick out your points of reference.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you're this close to the car in front as well. None of it helps. But, you know, these guys, especially at the front, we've got some top drivers here. And Sebastian's obviously going to be well used to driving absolutely flat out through trees in the pitch black. So I'm sure he'll be absolutely fine with this. But the rest of these guys,
that oversteer.
That was Brichet, wasn't it?
It was Brichet. Maybe he's a bit tired after his
Well, that's
his
the one
exit.
thing I was going to say, is his focus after doing 25 minutes in the RCZ is going to be, you know, it's going to have a lot of drain on it. So whether he can, there we see the opposite lock again. This is what I was talking about. You know, these conditions, especially after you've already done a race, little mistakes start to creep in, and it just takes that little moment for you to clip a barrier, and you're suddenly out of the race.
And is that Sylvain Noël on the back of him now? I think it is, isn't it? Trying to give him a bit of a hurry up now and say, look, you know, I can see you're a bit sloppy, you're making a few mistakes, maybe, just maybe, I can have a little go and have a look past. Oh, bit of dust there. That's from a previous situation where someone had stopped. Loeb, 8/10 of a second up the road now. Both into the top three drivers into the 19s now. 19.9 for Loeb in the lead, and 19.8 now. Is that a back marker that we've got to contend with, Will?
Yeah, I think we are going to start to see the guys catching up with the rest of the field now.
Oversteer from Jean-Carl Vernet as well as they came out. Let's see what the gap is this time. 120.2, 120.0. Vernet takes another 0.2 of a second out of Loeb.
But as you see from that oversteer, is he working his tyres too hard? Is he really pressing on just to try and catch up with the 8 times world champion? And if so, is he going to have anything left? We've still got 26 minutes of this race to go. And if you use up all your rear tyres trying to catch him, you're going to have nothing left to try and pass him with.
Yep, and the other thing is that Vernet may be thinking about the championship, whereas Sebastian Loeb clearly isn't going to be taking part in all of the races. It may be just the odd few that he does because of the clashes he has with his commitment to, of course, his World Rally programme. Here's Vernet, who had a tough start. He finished second in the opening race, but then only scored 1 point in race 2 at Le Mans. They go off to Val de Vienne after this, a very different, very twisty, difficult circuit. Manicourt, we know, of course, for its Grand Prix status, as, of course, was once Paul Ricard, or Le Castellet as it's now known. And Navarra as well, another modern circuit. So very different tracks for these drivers to encounter. Le Mans was a circuit that we watched recently, Wilmot, you and me. We were watching some of the previous races, and what a great track that looks like. Yeah, it looks mega, actually. I haven't actually raced there myself. Not a lot of TV coverage from that circuit, actually, which is a shame, because it does look like a mega track. As we see Vernet take even more time out of Sebastian Loeb. On the previous lap at that time, I think, yeah, you can see Loeb took it back. He took another 3/10 back out of Vernet. As you were saying, though, Vernet is obviously in it for the championship. He's in it for the wins. Sebastian, you're 8-time world champion. You know, this isn't really your game. You are a rally man. Surely the pressure's off. This is, dare I say, a bit of a jolly for him. Well, I think he's doing it well. Like whenever you see Sebastian Loeb do anything other than rallying, or even certain types of rallying he does outside of his World Rally programme, you never see anything other than total focus and commitment for him. And a couple of times I've heard him being interviewed, and it's patently obvious just how competitive this man is. Remember, he was a almost Olympic standard gymnast before he started motorsport. And the level of competitive person. Yeah, the level of commitment and focus. Even his wife is a really good rally co-driver, and his co-driver Daniel Elena is a very good driver himself as well. So they seem to all kind of permeate from him. And it must be nice not to have the pressure of championship points and impending sponsorship and etc. etc. Just having that extra weight off your shoulders can allow you just to relax a little bit more, and tends to result in a bit of a smoother, better run. The other thing that I think is interesting, though, you say that, is that look, Loeb gets into the lights, into the mirrors rather, of the back marker ahead of him. This could be significant, and this is where we were saying earlier about racecraft possibly being a factor for Loeb. That's not a man that has to worry about his racecraft. He timed that beautifully, didn't he? I would imagine we're not going to see it until we get to the next sector, but Vernet might have lost out as a result of that, because he got himself past the back marker just before he turned in. Vernet invariably would have then had the left and the right into Lycée, possibly with the back marker in his way. He could have done. Whether the back marker was nice enough to move right out the way or not, we'll have to... oh no, he's taken a second out of him. No, 0.3 of a second in sector 1. See what sector 2 does. Now this is a different fight, isn't it, that we're seeing here. This is further down the order. This is Sylvain Christophe Lapierre rather, and Romain Monti. Second sector, no, they were pretty even, so clearly a bit quicker. That back marker must have played nice, I suppose, and just got up well and truly out. Maybe the guy's a wide line. Yeah, maybe when Loeb came barreling past it, gave him a big old hurry up to just stay off the racing line and let Vernet dive through in a similar way. You tend to be, as the leader, you get the best help from blue flags by the marshals, but you also open the door then for everyone who's chasing you. And unfortunately, given the fact it's night time, blue flags aren't all that obvious. Well, we saw it in the RCZ Cup race where Jaminet, he was in third, got the rough end of the stick on the back markers. The top two got past nicely, and then Jaminet got chopped across, and I don't think intentionally, but he just wasn't very aware, was he? This fight is going to go on and on. Remember Sylvain Noël, who is in 7th at the moment in the Racing Technology car. He's currently 2nd in the championship, only 3 points behind Ledegaard, and Brichet is equal 2nd as well. So at the moment you've got Ledegaard, Brichet and Noël, who are 4th, 6th and 7th. Ledegaard, I think, is possibly going to extend his championship lead at the end of this, even though he's only running in 4th at the moment. These guys are all right on top of each other at the moment. Yeah, not much in it at all, is there? It's really interesting to see which one of these guys is going to break away or possibly make a mistake. Certainly Brechet was the one that we saw a bit leery early on, wasn't he?
Yeah, but Brechet obviously, he probably thought, oh, I hope I get a nice relaxing 40-minute race, and he's right in the thick of it at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a lock up there from Ledegar. I think that was at Beltoise rather that time. Still 1, 2, 3 for Sebastian Loeb Racing. And for Loeb, obviously, that clearly must be the future. His motorsport future is going to be moving into sports car racing, we think, and we'd like to see him race regularly at Le Mans now. A bit of defensive driving going on from Beltoise there. Interesting that he felt the need to do that, Will.
Yeah, I think he's under a lot of pressure at the moment. He's very much holding the rest of these guys up. But they're going to have to pressure him into a mistake or make an overtake stick. Otherwise, they're going to have to sit behind him.
Yeah, now coming up to exactly half distance in this race. 20 minutes of the 40 minutes around the streets of Pau. They've completed 14 laps, so looks likely, barring a safety car, we're on for 28 laps of action in total around here. That gives us an indication of just how demanding it is. And as you were saying, Brechet, who's had a busy evening of it so far, we'll see him step out of this car, and I think he's conscious of how well he's got to try to do in this championship, but he's also conscious of trying to make sure he finishes, as I think Ledegar is getting very, very close to Beltoise now.
Is he going to have a look into turn 1? Not close enough. As they charge up the hill, there's nothing to separate them.
He was better out turn 1, wasn't he, Ledegar? Definitely.
Yeah, he looks like he's got the run. I don't think he'll be doing anything. The overtake is very much covered into this left-hander. Don't think he'll be able to make any advances through the hairpin unless he just forces his way past. But that tight line, he uses a bit of that curb, and they're just getting pushed along. I mean, they really are all on top of them.
It all does look a bit scrappy, doesn't it? And look at this, Ledegar up on the curb. That looks like he just outbraked himself. Remember, it used to be that the Porsches had ABS as the race car, not in this version of them. That doesn't happen anymore, does it? Meanwhile, Loeb has got the lead. Well, it had gone up a little bit now. It's gone back a bit. 0.4 of a second. It's come right down again. It was 1.2 only a couple of laps ago. Loeb either has a problem or has made a mistake somewhere, and Vernet has capitalised on it.
I think Vernet's just been putting him under a lot of pressure, but Loeb does seem to be quicker on this lap, so whether he's going to extend that a fraction. Yeah, he's back up to 7/10 now. Loeb's got it under control.
Yeah, mega sector 2 and sector 3, wasn't it? It really just made a bit of a mess of the previous lap somewhere. Oh, there's the tyre spread off. Who is that? That is the 7 car in the wall of Beltoise. So was that contact from Ledegar, I wonder?
I think that's just a build-up of pressure, and it's forced a mistake. He's lucky to have rejoined as quickly as he did. I'd like to see where everyone else has settled down to. Up at the tail end of the podium there. That was the battle for 3rd place.
Well, I'm just looking to see if there's any damage on the front as Ledegar gets very sideways. Championship leader, remember. He's now into a podium position and on definitely for extending his championship lead, assuming, and it is one of those never assume it makes a what's it of you and me and all that sort of stuff, assuming that there wasn't contact with Beltoise and he may potentially risk a penalty. Castelli seems to be the strongest of these drivers at the moment, doesn't he? Seems to be really putting pressure on Ledegar.
He's all over the back of Ledegar, and I wouldn't have thought Ledegar would have been the result of that going straight on the first turn, because it's very risky to use the front of your car as a battering ram because your radiators are right at the front. And we're side by side the exit of here. Yeah, that's a tough call holding side by side there.
Oh my goodness me, and that is I think that is not Brechet, isn't it? Brechet on Castelli, sticking it out. Is he going to hold it in there? If he does, it's going to be the move of the day, I think.
Side by side,
not quite enough. Not quite. Oh, 10 out of 10. He might be a bit tired, but clearly the old adrenaline's flowing.
Oh, he's still very much up for this, isn't he?
Absolutely. Well, great racing. We sometimes worry that Porsches, because they're so quick, on a circuit like this, can get a little bit spread out, but certainly not happening here. At the front, it's down to 4/10 as well between Loeb and Vernet. We've just seen Beltoise go off, and now we've got a battle on for the last podium position, Will. It's fantastic.
It's all happening now with 15 minutes still to go. It's all to play for.
Yep, and nothing is certain as yet. Anything could change at any moment. Now, here we go. No, he just lost it on his own. Beltoire's just lost the back end. He locked the rears up and put himself into the wall. So Vincent Beltoire's...
Oh, back marker just having to put himself against the barriers to let those three go past
Eric Diamant in the gentleman class. It's in the gentleman class at the moment. It's still Christophe Lapierre, I think, is leading that class. Just ahead of Bruno Stratzer, who's come up from the back of the grid. So he's had a good performance so far.
So this battle for third reigns on. Ledegaard not able to put a gap on the rest of them. No, Ledegaard looking very racy.
You know, you were saying earlier about the way that the teams can set up the tyre pressure, for example. You usually get it over a longish race like this, that it's the car's either better at the beginning or better at the end. But in this case, it looks to me like maybe Ledegaard's car was stronger at the beginning but didn't get the brake he needed. So he's struggling a little bit more as the race gets towards the end.
Again, as they come down through the faster sections, we join our leader on board. Is that a back marker in front?
Well, we'll see in a second
with the coverage. This is going to be costing him. Perhaps this is why this gap keeps reducing.
Just trying to see, is that a back marker? Is that Vernet in front of him? He's too quick to be a back marker. That's Vernet, isn't it?
Marker.
That surely Jean-Carl Vernet has got past Sebastian Loeb. Or has he? No, it is a back marker. And look at Vernet, he's all over Loeb. Loeb is putting pressure. I wonder who that is that's in front of him.
Get out of the way.
Sebastian Loeb will be saying all kinds of naughty words in French, no doubt. And Vernet's hoping he can judge it correctly, but the lead has gone
too tense.
Oh, with 14 minutes to go, the back marker just gets in the way when you least wanted him to. I think they could...
Oh, hang on, they've swapped places.
No, they have. No, have they? Don't think they have. Let's have another look. No, it is still low. It is still low. Oh, goodness me, that you got me going there, Will.
Sorry.
Hard to see, isn't it? With the lights blaring at you, you can't see the timing screen. Sometimes doesn't tell the full picture. Now this is where Loeb is going to show what he's worth. If he can just break away once again.
Well, his lead's been completely eroded by that back marker, which I'm sure he'll be, well, not high-fiving when he gets out of the car.
Again, it's a situation Loeb, never really has to deal with in his chosen form of motorsport.
Still looking very smooth and in control of the car. It's very tidy.
One of the things I've always noticed with Sebastian Loeb when you see the onboard of him rallying, regardless of the surface, is his throttle control. As with any great racing or rally driver, the way that he can just about get the power on as early as possible. As you see, maybe was at the back marker again, getting in there. He's doing well tonight, this boy, isn't he? I think let's see if we can work out who it is. No idea which driver it is that keeps positioning his car in an awkward look. He's done it again. Tony Samon. Tony Samon is going to get words afterwards, I think.
The trouble is, like I was saying earlier, it's very hard to see the blue flags, very hard to know who's behind you, and all you can see is lights.
Yeah, well, you know there's a pack coming through, and that's really hurt Julien Brichet. He was right on the tail of Gael Castelli before that. And it's spread all three of those cars out quite a bit. We saw Ledegaard, Castelli, Brichet right on the side. Beltoire's has actually recovered sufficiently quickly enough to stay in sixth.
Lose too much. It could have been much worse with such an incident.
Well, he could have ended up with some serious damage on that Porsche as well, but managed to get it bounced quite neatly. You were saying about how you have to be careful. Vernet, very odd line there on the exit there. It's almost like the car hooked up wrong.
Exit on the power too soon, ran out of room on the exit, and
had to take the lock off. Maybe.
I think Loeb's going to be back up towards a second gap, which is over one lap after it was reduced to 0.2. Shows why he's a 8-time champion.
It is an interesting thought though, because Jean-Carl Vernet
1.4 seconds.
Yeah, Jean-Carl Vernet is one of the young up-and-coming French star drivers. He's been on the route to Formula One in the past, on the route to Champ Cars, signed by Peugeot as a factory driver, was going to race at Le Mans this year with Anthony Davidson, and Suddenly the Peugeot option obviously went because they withdrew. Now re-establishing himself in a championship like this. If you were going to be really tough on Jean-Carl Vernet, which I don't think would be fair, but if you were, you could say, yes, he's Sebastian Loeb, and yes, he's the 8 times world rally champion, but you're a racing driver and he's a rally driver, and you're 24 and he's 39. So you should be able to at least, you know, get amongst this guy.
The trouble is, I think Loeb's just turned up and shown how impressive he is, and Vernet has worked so hard to try and catch him. You know, if you've got the 8-time world champion in front of you in a match in a similar car, you're going to want to beat him. It's going to be something for the CV. Of course,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. But he could be given a hard time for it, or he could be given credit for getting as close to him as he has. Depends on how you look at it, really, isn't it?
So has Vernet taken too much out of the car, trying to stay with Loeb? And that's perhaps why he's now dropped down. Look,
0.7 of a second slower. I wonder how much of that was that mistake he made on the exit of the Buisson hairpin.
Well, up to 2 seconds now, so Loeb just pulled a nice, comfortable gap now.
Loeb is doing to Vernet what he did to Sébastien Ogier a couple of times, where he's just giving him a little metaphorical pat on the head and said, "You're really good, but not yet.
But not quite good enough.
Sunshine. You're not quite there yet." And you know, it's one of those little sort of almost fatherly approach to him, saying, "Yeah, you're mega, but I'm a bit more mega." If there's that sort of thing. This is great. Though. Look at the three of them have come back at each other. Ledegaard, Castelli and Brichet. It got spread out a bit, and I think, as you said earlier, Ledegaard seems to be the man struggling the most with the pace. Castelli or even Brichet seems to be the quickest of these three cars.
Yeah, but finding a way past is going to be difficult. You know, these guys, they've been racing now on 30 minutes. How much of their tyres do they have left? Are they really going to be able to risk massive outbraking manoeuvres when the guy in front is only a tenth slower, perhaps?
It could be interestingly looking at the lap times. The fastest lap has been set by Julien Brichet, 1:19.685. Admittedly, it was relatively early, and it's the other drivers ahead of him. Castelli, Ledegaard, Vernet 19.8, Loeb at 19.9, his quickest lap, and for Beltoise a 19.8 as well. So that's interesting, isn't it? Brichet, maybe that's that sharpness from jumping out the old RCZ so quickly. That could have helped him, couldn't it?
It could have helped him, darling. We've got someone. This is our
errant back marker, isn't it? Maybe he's been brought in. I don't know. I doubt it, but who knows? Who knows? So what does it mean in terms of the Gentleman's Cup? Well, who's still leading that? I think, looking down, it is still... Is it Mr. Lapierre?
Lapierre, up in 10th place.
Lapierre, ahead of Bruno Stratzer, who's come through well. And third place, Ange Bard after his spin. And how far is he away? Just looking at the laps, can't see it at the moment. Ange Bard, no, he's far enough away. So Castelli and Brichet, you see Brichet. Whoa, Castelli gets sideways. Has he tidied it up enough though, Will?
I think these guys are going to be neck and neck across the line. I mean, they're trying everything to get past Ledegaard. He's just not budging.
And you notice the brake lights came on just a little bit before that corner. Is that where they're just maybe tapping up the brake pedal?
I'm not convinced, because I've actually seen these lights flickering on and off as they head up this hill. So there we go, just as I say. I wonder whether it's a trick of the camera, these LED rear lights just flickering away.
Well, it could be just where he's going over the bumps. It's just changing the camera angle to make it look like they're coming on. So
perhaps.
We'll find out maybe. So with 7 minutes exactly remaining, we think around about 4 laps perhaps is all we're going to see now, maybe 5. 24 laps completed of this 2.760 kilometre circuit here in Pau, in the foothills of the Pyrenees, one of the most spectacular and exciting circuits, and it's certainly, we've saved the best to last today in our coverage of the racing in Tissier Park. And Beaumont Park is the area we're looking at down here. What we are looking at is some drivers who have absolutely thoroughly entertained us, Will.
Absolutely. I mean, these three have raced tooth and nail for the last 20 minutes, but Ledegaard seems to have the measure. You know, he keeps putting in nice, consistent times. Gaps, it's pretty stagnant gap, and I think Brechet, despite all his efforts, I'm starting to get the impression he might have used up all of his tyres. So I'm not sure if he can make any more inroads on the other two guys in front.
So with just under 6 minutes remaining here in Pau, it is Sébastien Loeb who leads his young teammate Jean-Carl Vernet by just over 1.6 seconds. And third, Comme Ledegaard ahead of Gad Castelli, Julien Brechet and Vincent Beltoise.
Now,
what have we got going on?
Side.
Is that now that is Beltoise, so that behind us must have been the fight.
Martins.
Oh, bit of oversteer there. Noël Martins, it should be the drivers we were watching. I think Martins is the car that's one of the most distinctive liveried cars. I think it's easy to see. Yeah, Noël is going to be charging hard. Remember, Noël is second in the championship behind Comme Ledegaard by only 3 points, but Julien Brechet is also joint second. So I think at the end of this race, we may well see that Ledegaard will extend his championship lead. Brechet will move to second on his own, and Sylvain Noël will be third, just ahead of Gad Castelli. But that's assuming it all works out the way we think. Thought that was Ledegaard being passed then.
No, another back marker.
Is that Bard, I think?
Yeah, it could well be, actually.
Orange Bard, certainly.
They're all through pretty cleanly. Gap still pretty much the same. I think we're going to need a mistake or a lost the late breakers manoeuvre.
So we just watch with interest with just a few minutes remaining here with this Porsche Carrera Cup France for 2012, the third race of the season, the second race weekend. He races at Lédanon already. Comme Ledegaard winning one of them, and Julien Brechet winning the other, with Sylvain Noël and with Jean-Carl Vernet also on the podium. In addition to that, we saw Sacha Bottema take a third position. Lonnie Martins up there as well. So they're trying to manage the oversteer now. The lap times have dropped away by, actually not as much as I would have thought, by just over a second from, in fact just under a second in the case of Loeb from his best lap, despite 36 and a half minutes of racing.
Yeah, I mean, there's the difference there, that Loeb's laps are staying within half a second, whereas Brechet, he's got the fastest lap of the race, is fluctuating more like a second and a half. And I think that's the difference between maintaining looking after your tyres throughout the duration and short, sharp, aggressive bursts when you're battling with the guys in front. Speaking of the leader, there he goes, heading out to the park section. Looks pretty comfortable there with that gap.
And you wonder how much more Sébastien Loeb would have in reserve if he needed to. I think he's driving quickly but efficiently, very smooth, no dramas. You listen to the downshifts, the throttle applications, you watch the steering inputs, and none of the overdriving that had been associated with rally drivers of the past. Maybe the classic sort of Scandinavian style of driving, which is all launch it on the way in and then control it on the way out. Not for Loeb, not for these kind of drivers. It's much tidier. It's absolute finesse at its best, isn't it?
Yeah, he's really using the car, as you said, so efficiently. He's not feeling the need to slide the car around, rattle curbs. If we just watch the Brechet battle and the guys in front rattle through there, as you saw there, lots of curbs being taken, slight hints of oversteer on the way out of corners, just showing that their tyres aren't quite at their best.
So 2 minutes remain. I think that's going to be perhaps one more lap for Sébastien Loeb when he crosses the line. He's looking to see where Loeb is at the moment. I think he's in sector 1 at the moment. Yes, he would be. He's just completed sector 1, so when he crosses the line, I think there'll be just over a minute left. And so that, I think, may well see him get the last lap ball. Let's hope he sees it in darkness anyway.
Yeah, not the easiest thing to see. I'm sure they'll have the pit lane lit up.
I wonder how many of the support race drivers are here watching this. I wonder if the F3 guys are here watching this display.
Oh, I think anyone who's gone back to the hotel shouldn't be allowed to come back tomorrow for not staying and watching this.
We know what these young racing drivers are like. They've been told to go to bed early and everything.
Oh, true.
It is 10:32 local time. So the time that all finishes, it's going to be... everybody's gone back to the paddock. It'll be close to 11 o'clock. They'll probably be tucked up in bed with their hot chocolate by then, won't they?
Probably. It's an early start for some of the boys in the morning, but I still can't help but think Sebastian Loeb winning on the streets of Po wouldn't be worth staying up for.
Yeah, I know. Certainly it would be on my list of to-do things as a spectator, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And look, Brichet, one last chance. It's the last lap. He knows it's the last lap, but then again, so does Castelli, and so does Comme Ledegar. That's Ledegar at the head of Castelli, and then Brichet. Which way is it going to go? I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Brichet have a little go on the last lap.
I think you're right. I think we may see something. We're back on board with Loeb. Actually, not that far away from the guys battling for third positions. We see 1 and 2 go through. And there we go, Brichet. I think at this point he might be happy with the points. Do you not think?
It's going to require a bit of a proper run, hopeful, isn't it? But you never know. Never say never, as they say.
I'm sure if he sees an opportunity, he will take it. But these guys have been bumper to bumper for so long now. I would have thought if we were going to see an overtake, we would have seen it by now.
Castelli seemed to go into defensive mode there. I think he's accepted he's not going to have a go at Ledegar. And we've accepted that Sebastian Loeb is the master of all he purveys, the 8 times world champion, recently won his 70th World Rally event, and he wins on the streets of Po, the Porsche Carrera Cup Matmut Championship for 2012 in Po. Sees a win for Loeb from Jean-Carl Vernet, a brilliant drive to third position for Comme Ledegar, the championship leader, ahead of Gad Castelli, Julien Brichet. I think Vincent Beltoise is going to hang on to 6th after a spin. He was running 3rd, having qualified there. Sylvain Noël, and then Lonnie Martins, Romain Monti. Christophe Lapierre looks to have won the category B for the gentleman drivers, ahead of Bruno Stratzer and Ange Bard. So, pretty breathless stuff, Will. What a great way to end the day.
Fantastic. I think Vernet just pulled alongside Sebastian there just to say, how'd you do that?
Did you see the marshals there? They're waving as if to say, we are not worthy. And that says it all, really. The respect and the affection that this man has from his fans throughout France, and absolutely rightly said, throughout the world, in fact. Well, Sebastian Loeb Racing is surely going to be a force to be reckoned with going forwards in all levels of motorsport. They've got the LMP2 program, French GT program, and of course they've got several cars running in this category. And one thing's for sure, whenever this man turns up to race or to rally, everyone worries. You could imagine your heart sinking, can't you, as a fellow competitor?
If you see his name on the entry list, you are going to be a little bit deflated.
What are we racing for? Second at best, basically.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's that kind of, I know that's perhaps a bit overly dramatic, but it's not far from the truth, is it? And,
no, I mean, he's a spectacular talent, and the fact he can prove it now in all these different formulas, you know, whatever he jumps in, he's fast.
Yeah, and look at the level of applause that's been that's echoing around the streets of Po. Everybody just wants to sort of give this guy a bit of recognition for what he's just done. And always he'll step out looking pretty cool and calm and collected, because he's a cool, calm, collected guy. So those very familiar overalls with Citroën Sport and Red Bull. Is he going to stand on the roof like he does when he wins a rally? Let's see if he does. That would be quite a cool touch, actually. I'd like that. But they're very familiar.
It's his car, it's his team. He might not, actually.
Yeah, I'm not paying for the
I don't want to have to
man to
beat that back out.
Yeah, and just thinking that it was a familiar set of overalls in an unfamiliar circumstance, but with a familiar outcome, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. That's all I can say. You know, that's his business partner, Henri, and wow, what can you say? We are, you know, we always rue the passing of such legends as Ayrton Senna, and remember with affection what it was like to see him in action. And we've just had the pleasure of commentating on arguably the greatest driver in the world at the moment in anything. You know, that's a bit of a strong thing to say, but there's not many people who are going to really take you to task on that, are they?
No, I mean, he's had the level.
First victory in the Porsche Carrera Cup, and it's you bringing back to your team. I'm sure you must be very proud and very happy for the team.
For sure, I'm very happy for the team. For sure, I won. It's the first victory of the team, and so I'm proud to bring the first victory in my home team. But also, I'm happy for Jean-Carl, because I don't score the points, so he's winning the race for the championship, and that's also important because he has a good result in Le Mans. So now with the victory here, it's looking good for the future. So he's going very fast. But it was a great fight in the night.
Thanks, Seb. Good job.
So interesting, isn't it? The world's most famous French motorsport driver in France being interviewed by a Frenchman in English. So Loeb wins it by 1.3 from Vernet-Ledegar, championship leader ahead of Castelli-Brichet. Great battle for them. Beltoise Noël second in the championship coming in. And then winner of the B category, Christophe Lapierre, ahead of Bruno Strazza. And then Ange Bard recovers into third place. But we see a fantastic performance by Sébastien Loeb. He wins on the streets of Pau.
Nous disait donc qu'il était extrêmement ravi d'amener cette première victoire à son équipe Sébastien Loeb Racing, sa première victoire en Porsche Carrera Cup. Et bien sûr, il est aussi surtout très content de voir Jean-Carl Vernet, qui est un des pilotes de son équipe, marquer le maximum de points, puisque Sébastien, lui, est complètement transparent au niveau du classement.
So we're going to take a short break here before the podium celebrations at Pau. So we've seen Sébastien Loeb take victory in the Porsches. Welcome back to Pau for the Grand Prix de Pau and for the podium presentations for the Porsche Carrera Cup France for 2012, the opening race of the weekend, held in the darkness, but anything but other than exciting would be an unfair way of putting it. We were thrilled by the battles throughout the pack, but we were most stunned by the performance of Sébastien Loeb. Will Scriver and Simon Hill here have been enjoying the racing throughout the day, but really nothing could touch that final race.
That was a masterclass, wasn't it? Sébastien had the measure in qualifying and seemed to have the absolute measure the entire way through the race. Almost to the point where we thought, I'll just try and win from as little as with as small a gap as possible, just to save the car as best I can.
Yeah, you wonder if he had to really crank it up if there was another half a second in there.
Well, the moment that gap closed down to 2/10 through back markers, he was able to just pull himself back to a 2-second gap and sit there comfortably. I think I'm actually a bit stunned by how good he does seem to be.
Yeah, I mean, you neither of us, we've both been around motorsport and we've both followed Loeb's career through World Rally and sports car racing and everything else he's done. And there's, you'd have to be of living in a underground somewhere not to have noticed what the guy can do. And every time you think he couldn't do anything more impressive, he does suddenly drags a little bit more out of what he can do. And then you see something like this where we've watched it from start to finish. We've watched it following the timing screen, analysing the sector times, seeing his qualifying performance, and just seeing every little thing that was thrown at him. It just couldn't have been more impressive. This is the moment where Loeb took victory, first victory for his team, Sébastien Loeb Racing, and it meant that because he doesn't score points, his young teammate Jean-Carl Vernet, who finished second, will effectively win the race. So that means all important stuff. So a bit of a win-win for Vernet, isn't it?
Yeah, I was just debating that actually. So there must have been a part of him where he thought, well, second place is fine, that's what I need for the championship. But then I suspect there would have been a large part of him, the racing driver in him, that thought, I'd really quite like to beat Sébastien Loeb.
Well, you kind of wonder on both fronts there, don't you? Loeb could have thought to himself, if it gets to a situation where Vernet was going to have a go at launching the car down the inside, whether he would have given him the room. Or whether Vernet would have thought, I'm not going to try anything, I don't need to. So
it is a team owner at the end of the day as well, so you have to be doubly careful.
Absolutely, yeah. So third position for Como Ledegar, a performance he's going to be chuffed to bits with, because, or very delighted with, because he was under pressure throughout the race. Looked like he was going to crack a couple of times, put pressure on Beltoise, and eventually Beltoise went off because of it. Second there, Jean-Carl Vernet.
That was a hard-fought third position, actually, wasn't it?
It was a very hard... In fact, that was the thing that was great. We had this great battle with Loeb and Vernet at the front, and then we had this even more, I suppose, frantic battle. And here he is. He's the man. Wonder if he's looking for his co-driver, who's normally standing next to him. Where's Daniel Elena when you need him?
Just slightly missed out on locking out the podium with all Sebastian Loeb racing cars.
I know, it was 1, 2, 3 in qualifying, wasn't it? So as the Le Marseillaise will be playing very soon. I remember going on a flight with Jean-Carl Vernet when he drove for A1 GP Team France when he was very young. Nice kid, very good. So Ledegar gets his pro trophy. Feel like he's earned that one. Vernet gets second position, but well, I watched a program about Mario Andretti recently, and he had 2 trophy rooms, not just trophy cabinets. And I wonder what Sebastian Loeb has got. So he's got 70 wins, but however many podiums.
Trophy barn?
Trophy barn, yeah. So it's like, you know, when you go to these storage facilities, this lock and store or whatever they call it, maybe he's got one of those. But it's been all about this man, Sebastian Loeb. It's a perfect way to sum up the coverage of the 71st edition of the Grand Prix de Pau. We had brilliant racing throughout the day from the Midjet Series, from the RCZ Cup, from the Trophy Andros electric vehicles, and of course from the British and European F3. Finally, the Porsche summed it up brilliantly. We've seen the greatest Frenchman in terms of driving ability, probably of all time, arguably the greatest rally driver in history. As they get away from the champagne, we have had an absolutely fantastic time. Will and Simon here, Will Scriver and Simon Hill will be back with more action. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you very soon on Motors TV. Thanks and good night.